So I just spent an hour and a half rambling about a Reddit post I saw earlier today. I just went ahead and deleted that to spare you from the details. Although I do want to acknowledge this, I've made my stance pretty clear on Yoimiya. I've been diving really into the depths of all the Yoimiya controversy. Usually I don't really, but since I made a public stance on it really, I figured I should do my due diligence. The Reddit post in question is titled "Why Yoimiya Needs Fixing, an in-depth summary and analysis of her kit" by One Party Confetti here. So I want to get this out of the way. I do defend Yoimiya. She does 1000% have issues, more and more I've been seeing as I've been playing with her. The main one they outlined here is the micro issues. There are also macro issues and game mechanics, which we'll touch on briefly, but the most important here is the micro issues. So I read this post yesterday, again today. You know, I really try and always do my best to get the full grasp and the full scope of everything. I'm always open and willing to learn about things, and the poster here does make some very valid points. So first we have dodging, interruption, and auto string. This is probably, I would say, the third most important thing here. And it's definitely true. Once I really started paying attention to it, it became quite apparent. So as you can see, her multipliers get higher and higher as she continues her chain. And so if she has to stop in the middle of this chain, she's losing out on a lot of this damage from, you know, the 4 and 5 hits, etc. There's, of course, a workaround, you know, having a strong Zhongli shield. I personally always have Zhongli in my team, which is why I didn't notice it that often until, you know, I read the post and was like, oh yeah, that can definitely be an issue there. I'm going to jump to different sections of this post because it is very lengthy. I would just like to talk about the second most important thing, in my opinion, at least, and something I've said from the beginning that I think is super underwhelming with her, and that is her burst. And there are even more things that, you know, I learned from this post that I didn't know before. You know, generally, I'm just a player. I have fun with the game. I don't, you know, put on super magnifying glasses and look at the little details. But it is still pretty interesting. So I already found her burst pretty underwhelming, but what makes it even more underwhelming is something called internal cooldown, or ICD. I was curious, needed to make sure for myself, and yes, indeed, I just went to Oceanid through her ult on one of the dudes, and yes, the second one did not proc vaporize. And I'm like, what the heck? That's pretty bizarre. So yeah, there's a 2.5 second cooldown on the reactions for most skills. There are some skills that bypass this internal cooldown, like Hu Tao's charge attack, but for whatever reason, Yoimiya's burst does not bypass that. And I don't know if that's just an oversight or if it was intentional, but that 100% in my opinion should be changed. There's another thing called snapshotting, where apparently Yoimiya is pretty unique in this regard as well. So basically with most characters, if you buff them and do their burst or their ult or whatever you want to call it, and then, you know, you can leave Binny's ring, what have you, they will continually keep those buffs until their ult is gone. For example, Shanling's Q with the spinning pyro ring, that will have all those buffs at the time she casted it. So I'm not going to pretend I'm some kind of expert on all the nitty gritty mechanics of Genshin or anything all of a sudden, but I do find it weird that she is unique in this regard, in a bad way. The burst proc here, I did find super weird as well, so that, you know, someone else has to attack the character. With Zhongli's pillars or Xingqiu's swords hitting the enemy pretty much at a constant rate, you know, that also triggers her burst explosion. So for me in that comp, it didn't really matter that much. But again, like when I first read that, I was like, what the hell is that? And the biggest issue in my opinion, and the one they kind of did hit home a lot in this thread, I'm just trying to help bring a little bit of attention to it. However, this is not a problem with Yoimiya specifically, but all Archer characters. Why it's important though is because Yoimiya is kind of the only character that has its main focus on auto attacks. And they do have some examples here. Again, this is just all things with Archer. I did also test this, you know, I got Ganyu in there and she was behaving exactly the same way. Also, here is an example video of the burst just straight up missing. This has also happened to me personally, and that is super annoying. And here we go with the auto attacks. She's missing like 80% of her shots there because the Hilichurls are bouncing around. Also down here on the slime is bouncing around and, you know, just Matrix style avoiding those arrows. So that's pretty bad. Again, it's the same with all Archer characters, but of course, after introducing Yoimiya, who has a very, very strong focus on basic attacks, there is 1000% my vote to change this, make them hit scan and not an actual projectile. Maybe it loses a little bit of realism, but you know, that's a good trade-off. Like I've heard, Ayaka's charge attack is hit scan, so you know, as soon as you start the charge attack, if the enemies are in the range, when she starts it, she will still hit them even if they dash away. That's not super realistic either, but she has it. So why not Archer basics? I don't know how hard of a fix that would be. I'm no game developer. Honestly, I think just that alone would be enough. I have also experienced this, although I'm a pretty chill, laid-back guy, so I'm like, whatever, you know? She's hitting a rock over there where the enemies are, but there's a rock in the way, and it's like, yeah, whatever, I'm gonna move to a different section. So I noticed it. I guess I just didn't care that much, but you know, I can't expect everyone to be like me, so you know, I'm just trying to do my part here and speak out about these issues, because they are real issues for sure. So I'd say those are the main issues. There are some, in my opinion, smaller issues, ones that, you know, can't really be worked out unless they completely change who Yoimiya is as a character, like team drafting here. Basically, Yoimiya works best with a lot of the best supports, you know, Binny, Kazuha, Xingqiu, Zhongli, etc., etc. And yeah, that's also totally fair to say. Again, I don't think there's anything we can really do about that. Obviously, I have like 80% of the entire Genshin roster raised, so I usually have quite a lot of supports to pick from anyway. So again, for me personally, it's not a huge deal, but again, you know, there are all sorts of players at different points in the game, so it can definitely be an issue for them. I do gotta say though, maybe I'm just too dumb to understand this, but this feels like a pretty big stretch to me, talking about Shimenawa's Reminiscence here. Apparently it's a DPS decrease for her kit, and it's specifically in the situation where you're in Abyss, you do Q first, then you supports, then swap to her E to do her stuff. But with Shimenawa's, apparently you won't be able to get to that second Q or the extra Q for the Abyss floor. Personally, I would think the 50% extra damage on normal attacks is worth that 15 energy. Apparently this was proven by the Yoimiya mains Discord. It would have been nice to have a little bit more information here instead of having to go on a Discord. But I mean, this also does imply that everyone's going to be doing the same exact thing. Yoimiya burst, supports, swap to E, rinse and repeat, and perhaps that is the 100% most like optimal. I think the vast majority of the player base is not so mechanical about it. So that's why I'm nitpicking this part a little bit, is because I would imagine outside of this very specific scenario, I guess the starting floor of Abyss, because after the first floor, you're not even like guaranteed to have your ult. I mean, maybe there are like specific scientific builds so that, you know exactly how much energy you'll have also at the end of the floor to ensure that you have it for the next chamber. I don't know. This is getting all way too complicated. Personally, I still think Shimenawa's is great, but that's just because I hate her ult and don't do it like ever. I just think it's a waste of an animation. I basically just don't bother with the ult unless it's full, because then Thundering Pulse loses a stack. So I just do it when it's full to get rid of it. They also do show that they've 36 starred Abyss with Yoimiya as their main DPS in first half, which at the end of the day, she's viable. I think every character is viable. I know it's kind of a meme, but I definitely believe it to be true, because I mean, there is a lot of discussion about her actual power as a character, you know, besides her issues. I'm not going to touch on that too much. I'm sure they've run all the numbers and whatever. Personally, I'm impressed with her damage. The main thing I want to focus on are her actual issues, like the internal cooldown with her ult, the auto attacks being just absolutely horrendous for archers in general. I really think now that Yoimiya is here, they need to do something about that. But yeah, I suppose that'll pretty much do it. I want to thank Party Confetti for bringing a lot of this stuff, you know, forward. I think it was a very well-written post. I mean, this is coming from someone who got their Yoimiya to C2 and actually has their Yoimiya built way better than mine. It obviously seems like they like her and are writing this out of frustration that she has these issues and that she is a little underwhelming. And I get that. I support you. Overall, though, even, you know, having my eyes peeled open to all of Yoimiya's issues, I still really enjoy her, and I'm still going to continue to use her. Because I just really like how she plays. Yeah, her arrows go wonky every now and then, but you know, when she hits that nice vaporize with Xingqiu, love seeing those quick, you know, 65, 70k damages pop off. So yeah, she's a little wonky. She's a little broken right now, but I still like her. And that's pretty much the end of my piece. Make sure to tell me what you think in the comments down below, though. I don't know if this is always like this with new characters, honestly. I don't know if it's this divided. I know there's always some divisiveness, but Yoimiya seems to have sparked a pretty big thing, because, you know, I don't really talk on the whole community drama sort of stuff all that often, but I really feel like for Yoimiya, I kind of had to. I did make a video at first defending her because I was just playing with her and having fun, and I'm like, hey, it's a fun character. What's wrong with all you guys? But of course, you know, some of it is definitely justified, a little bit blown out of proportion for my tastes personally, but some of it is definitely justified. Of course, yeah, the auto attacks, everything we've already talked about, blah, blah, blah. I'm gonna wrap it up now before I get to rambling another hour and a half and delete that one too. So, see ya, guys.